What's up, Hospitality MD viewers? My name is Kyle Allison, back with another episode of our podcast interview series presented right here on YouTube. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to this channel. Be sure to turn on notifications for this channel. Be sure to like this video. Be sure to comment on this video, and be sure to share this video. So today's episode is with Zoltan Payerli. He is the general manager of the Nobu Hotel Chicago, and he is at the ripe young age of 33 years old. How did he do it? Tune in to find out. We're going to be going through his career progression and how he navigated building his career to achieve the general manager role at such a young age. And he'll be sharing some Zoltan-isms. He's got a lot of cool sayings and different advice that'll help you navigate your hospitality career. For anybody who has big aspirations in this industry, you'll definitely want to tune in because Zoltan is a wealth of knowledge and experience, and his sentiments will be definitely putting you at an advantage in this industry. So stay tuned and enjoy this episode. Welcome back to another episode of Hospitality MD. Today, I am joined by Nobu Hotel Chicago General Manager, Zoltan Payerli. Welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well, Kyle. Thank you very much. How are you doing?
Great. Yeah, thanks for being on. So, Zoltan, you are 6 months or so into your first ever general manager role. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
At the ripe young age of 33 years old, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So I want to, because for a lot of people, right, and for those who don't know, Nobu is kind of a newer brand, right? Upscale, because we're not talking that you're the GM of a Fairfield Inn and Suites. Not that we're going to be, that's great because that's really difficult to do. But right. I want to hear a little bit about this brand and kind of just so we know the gravity of what you're managing here.
Yeah. The brand, and I'm not just saying this because obviously I work for Nobu. I truly 100% believe that this is the future of hospitality. The style of the hotel, the vision, it is luxury lifestyle. People look at it right now, right? Look at the Instagrams, look at all this stuff. People want to be bougie, they want to have fun. They're everything's whatever's Instagrammable. It's their lifestyle. They want to keep up with the trends, and Nobu does a great job doing that. It really is an art form. It's a showcasing. It's very celebrity centric. It's very food centric. I mean, who doesn't like to have good quality food inside them or drinks? So you take this concept, you put it in a hotel setting, and what I meant by this being the future hotels is that these hotels that are popping up now with the brand around the world, not just domestically but internationally too. I mean, we have a beautiful rooftop bar, fine dining restaurant on the first floor, less than 200 rooms. This is going to become the trend, especially in lieu of this worldwide pandemic. No one wants to really necessarily go to these 1,500, 2,000 plus room properties anymore with large groups of people and large everything. It's small, it's intimate, it's boutique. It's what fits you and your what you're looking to explore, what you're looking to indulge on. And I think they do a really good job identifying that with the clientele.
Well, and I think maybe even more importantly, it's exclusive. It feels that way, right? For that kind of Instagrammable type of
right.
lifestyle that people want to experience now, and they want to feel like. Right. If you go to the, no shade, but you go to the Marriott Marquis and it's like, you feel like you're just one of the masses, right? Just one cog in the machine of driving rate and just getting people in and getting people out. Right. But you go to Nobu.
Yeah.
And you feel like you are a participant in a world-class experience.
It's quite exceptional. To your point, and listen, every hotel serves a purpose for someone. I mean, there's why there's different brands of everything you buy in life, and that makes sense. So there's no shade or by any means to any of those places. But yeah, what's great about the Nobu experience here is that, like downtown Chicago, you walk in, the moment you walk in, it doesn't even feel like you're in downtown anymore. It really is from start to finish. And the amenities, it's like a hidden gem. It's the smells, it's the looks, it's the vibe. That it's a nice escape. And that's what helped us a lot actually during the opening in the middle of this worldwide pandemic, is that people wanted to escape their own homes. They were literally walking here from their homes, from the city.
Wow.
Just to get out of the house, because they've been looking through four walls for months at a time in quarantine, and they said, I got to go. So to give people that type of experience, from the arrival process to the in-room process with the accommodations that we offer inside those rooms, to the beautiful views of the city, to then you go into the food and beverage aspect where, I mean, listen, I'm a native Chicagoan. I grew up on meat, potatoes, and corn. I'm eating things I've never eaten before in my life that I'm hooked on now, because they do such a great job that you don't know either whether to eat it or take a picture of it. And it's such a cool, exclusive feeling that you are a part of something, and it was 100% worth that investment that you're looking for to kind of get that little mini escape. So it's really cool to be a part of that.
Yeah, I will say that it sounds to me like what you're describing is the hotel is really serving its purpose in the community as a hospitality institution that, I feel like is oftentimes forgotten about when you are a real estate investor who has a hotel, but they're not a hospitalitarian by nature. And with Nobu kind of being it's nestled within a neighborhood. Granted, it's a popular neighborhood, but it's still nestled within its own community. When you have people walking from their house like you described, I mean, that actually gave me chills, because I'm like, this is the hotel serving its purpose as a center stone and a mecca for the community to come gather, spiritually reset themselves, and manage to survive another day when it seems like the whole world is crumbling around you. So, okay, Zoltan, this sounds like Nobu is, definitely not your grandma's hotel, right? So you're overseeing the entire thing, from rooms to food and beverage to sales, everything, right? So I do want to build up to this a little bit and go back, and to be so passionate as you are, you must have had some sort of enunciation moment into hospitality. I'm curious to know if you can identify that, if you know that moment that you felt it for the first time and something changed within you that kind of set you on this path of living this lifestyle.
That's a good question. I grew up, I think there's a couple caveats to that. It's special for me here at this very moment in time, very humbling, because I am a native. So to be a part of something new, growing up in the suburbs, went to college here in the city. I was a hospitality grad at Roosevelt. So, 10 years ago, to your point, to the West Loop, you wouldn't walk through the West Loop. It was crazy. You'd be crazy to walk through there. It wasn't really the safest of areas or neighborhoods. So to see the last decade, the community and the development of the West Loop and these world class bars, restaurants, hospitality, it's great. And now to open a hotel and be a part of that opening, you're like pretty much you're building the city. You're building the city, essentially what you're doing. So there's a lot of pride from me on that perspective. Now, going back a little bit further in the hospitality side of it, I started out really young. I started out 18, right out of high school at a little Hampton Inn and out in the suburbs, and then kind of moved around a little bit and tried out some different brands. And, and hospitality really is like a vortex. You don't really start thinking you're going to end up in it. You just start because you needed a job and you had an idea down the road, but then one thing leads another. You start picking up more hours, more shifts, you maybe a promotion, you start enjoying talking to people from all over the world. And I think the moment that really changed it up for me is after I graduated, and I was years into being a supervisor. I was actually an assistant front office manager. out at a Hilton out in the suburbs. And it was the famous snowstorm of 2011, the one that snowed in everybody on Lakeshore Drive and everything. And I was applying for some jobs down south because I'm like I didn't want to see snow anymore. And I lucked out. There was a brand new Waldorf Astoria hotel that opened up in Orlando, Florida, and I they called me, and it was that was the moment that kind of changed my game. Is I never really worked at a luxury property before, and I 100% appreciate all the other properties I've ever worked with, the Hiltons, the Hampton, all that fun stuff. But I think that was the game changer. It really opened my mind up because at that time when I started that job at the Waldorf Orlando, I was probably six and a half years into the industry. I mean, it's not like I was just doing it for a couple of years. I was pretty well versed and knew the seasons and all that. So you walk into this job at a complete different setting, and you think you know, naturally as a naive young guy, you think you know everything, and then wow, that hit me like crazy. That first year, I had to really take a step back and be really humbled about what true service is and the follow-ups and the communications. And you just gain this appreciation. And it's made me want to learn ever since then. I mean, literally for now, the last 10 years now, a decade, I have been wanting to learn more and more and more about every department, everything. And it's really understanding those small details to accomplish those big things that really makes the difference. Because that experience, you can take anywhere with you. You literally take anywhere with you. It's great, you know? So I think that was the kind of the moment in time when I really got my first luxury job, and I put in just all these hours, a lot of hours. Just I was the guy that raised his hand, anyone picking up an extra shift or helping another manager out, because I was brought on as a front office manager. So I was a salary manager, but you know, so I would stay, you know, overnight. Sure, I did it. Like I just wanted to keep busy and keep learning, and that's what really helped escalate me to where I'm at. I'm very fortunate by that and humbled by it.
There's you know, they say that the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. And I can definitely relate to you on that, because I actually, believe it or not, started my hotel career at Indian Lakes myself.
Oh,
you know,
boy.
the starting ground, right? And I was started when I was 17 years old, and kind of have been going through and just jumping around and working at different hotels and just having fun with it, right? But and and I thought I was really good at hotels. Like even after Indian Lakes, I was like, and you know this, right? If you can do this, like I really thought that. I was like, if I've survived this,
Yeah.
I can go anywhere and do anything. But then I realized as I started to experience different properties, I said, wow, there's more to running a hotel than just staying afloat and surviving and being able to handle it when it's busy and just managing it. It's again about really honoring that commitment to the community and being hospitable and changing people's lives and making an impact on others. Not to say that we never did that at Indian Lakes, but I would say it's a lot harder to do there than maybe at some of the other places that maybe you and I have worked. But that's interesting, right? You moved to Orlando, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was kind of like so I guess I'm in this now, right? Like you uprooted your life, like
yeah,
that's it. You made the decision to go from an optional choice to basically a career that you're heavily involved in.
I packed up whatever I could on my little Pontiac, and I drove from Chicago to Orlando. I did not know a single person. It was crazy. I just felt like I had to do it, and it was, man, it was an eye opener. And not only from a professional experience, which I'm forever grateful for at that property over there at Bonnet Creek and all that, is it's personal. I mean, I ended up meeting my wife. You know, I ended up, you know, you gain family, and you meet people. And now every time I go to Orlando, I know I can call up a dozen people and say hi to them, and because they're all industry people. Where this is how it was, and it was just an interesting time. I think it made you more grateful of what you could do, not just like I said professionally, but just in life. Like, wow, all you had to do was say yes, you know, and now figure it out. And that's really kind of the key to luxury, because you know, they always teach you, and everyone thinks like, you know, when you say you can't say no, you can't say no. It's not that you can't say no; it's that you really shouldn't, and you should really kind of just push on saying yes and try to figure it out. It's amazing what you really could accomplish by doing that. And at the end of the day, no matter how much of a headache it could be, there's a sense of fulfillment that whether you did it for that guest or for your team or for your owners or even for yourself, but you leave there like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. I just booked a helicopter tour in 2 hours, land on the golf course. And it's like, you're like, oh my gosh, like I never thought I'd be doing that, working, especially when I was 18, working at a Hampton Inn, like, and here you are, you're doing things for A-listers or royalty and all this other stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's insane. So I think that's the stuff that really helped, making that big life step. And then I kind of took that into a work ethic of, okay, well, let's try to figure this out. Let's accept this challenge. Let's see what we can do, and you kind of have fun with it. And then you kind of bring your team with it, and then they're a part of it too. And it's neat.
Zoltan, are you familiar with the book Yes is the Answer by Christine Trippi? Have you heard of that before?
No, I haven't heard that one. No.
I'm going to send you a copy. It'll show up at the hotel. You're going to get a copy of this book. Christine is actually a Chicago native as well.
Nice.
I've interviewed her on the podcast, and she has a book called Yes is the Answer that is literally how to say yes to people. And she's been a hotel GM and stuff like that. Really good book. You're going to love it. And I think you're really going to align with it. So I'm going to send you a copy of that. How old were you when you made that move, Zoltan?
23, 10 years ago. It was actually 10 years ago this week. 10 years ago.
Very cool.
10 years ago today was the day I started the Wolf Story Orlando.
You're kidding. Really?
That's too funny. Yeah.
All right. Well, happy anniversary.
My luxury anniversary, I guess you could say.
Yeah, your luxury anniversary, the start of your yes mindset and kind of attacking life. I'm 23 now. And I know there's a lot of young people. We get our audience on the podcast is a lot of middle management, a lot of entry-level hoteliers, a lot of college students, a lot of people who are aspiring to grow and supplement their hotel education or hotel careers. So I'm curious in speaking to them, right? Speaking to this young audience, I feel that people can take a lot of value away from that story of, why not just get up and move if you have no ties to a certain place? Like, what's your advice to a young person who's basically like, I love hotels and I just kind of want to do something, but I'm scared or I just don't know where to start?
Okay. So this is a very sensitive topic for me. I speak very passionately about this, especially when I actually even interview people on a daily basis or weekly basis. So I'm going to give you this pretty set answer that as far as I'm concerned, it is, I'm sure as you know, it is a very easy business to move around. It's very easy. I mean, there's hotels everywhere, bars, restaurants. I mean, hospitality is literally everywhere. I think 47 of the 50 states is his top 3 employers. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's
1 in 25 Americans work in hotels.
It's everywhere. So having said that, there's always going to be opportunity, right? So now you got to start identifying what you truly want to do, because quality is not an expense, it's an investment. And I really want people to remember saying this. Okay, quality is not an expense, an investment. You get what you pay for, you get what you put in. It goes both ways. So it's not always about the title. It's not always about the pay. That will come. When I moved down to Orlando, I was not getting paid a lot of money. I just did it. I had to figure it out. I was, I wanted to stay out of trouble and I wanted to have some fun with it and gain all that knowledge. Having said that, though, too, there has to be that investment piece professionally. When you start looking for these jobs, when you start looking for these opportunities that you might, you see a new shiny thing, right? A new shiny position, new shiny hotel, new shiny department. Are you leaving the current position that you're in better than how you got it? That's a big question. I think a lot of people get confused, especially in the hotel world, because that's most of my career, is, after 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, people, it's just a natural thing. People get the itch, right? And it's probably because maybe they finally know what room faces what view, or they memorize the menu, or they know what pseudo rooms there are. They have everything maybe down as far as like the main go-tos standards. But did they improve themselves in that position? Or having said that even further, are they ready for the next position? So having said that, I had a boss at another Wall of Astoria when I worked out in Palm Springs. He pulled me aside. He said, listen, everyone's on a 3-year plan. First year, I'll lose money on you because you're just learning what to do. The second year, I break even on you because you learn what not to do the previous year. And then the third year, I make money on you because you're learning what not to do and now you're making it better. And so he gave me this kind of awkward silence. And I thought about that. I'm like, wow, you know what? You got to crawl before you walk. You got to walk before you run. It's the same concept with anything we do in life. It takes time. You have to more or less go up the chain of command and adapt, inherit, because as time goes on, you start taking on these roles and more people umbrella underneath you that report to you directly, or teams and all this other stuff. They're going to come to you asking for your advice or your experience or your wisdom. And if you don't have that on hand, there's 2 things harder to earn than money in this world. That's trust and respect. And if you don't have that, by the people that report to you, good luck. So that's why, like, it's always scared me, because you talked earlier about my age. I've always been looked at as like the younger guy, you know, the guy, the young manager, the young supervisor, the young this, the young that, young general manager. So I use it a little bit as a fuel, not really so much of a sense of anxiety, but for lack of a better term, maybe like a little bit of deal where like, I'm going to work on this. I'm going to make this for improvement. I got to do this for my team, with my team, you know, be humble enough to admit you don't know. You know, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay. Like, we're human. You're learning. I'd rather have someone tell me they don't know and ask how to do it than just make something up or lie, you know? So things like this, I think, is important for the listeners, the viewers, for these next career moves, is take that step back, look to when you started to where you're currently at. Are you leaving the position better? Now, there's some things that we understand is not in your control, right? No one's going to blame you for capital expenses. No one's going to blame you for staffing org charts, all this other stuff, to an extent. But did you help instill a program? Did you help build up SOPs, training programs, organize stuff? You know, anything and everything that you can obviously take with you, or that people can use 5 years from now in that same department. Things like that, I think, is so important that people tend to lose sight. And then all of a sudden you look at resumes and you got job hoppers. You got people, you know, 8 months here, 9 months here, year here, then new place, then new place, new place. Like, well, you learned that hotel, but did you learn the position? So I think it's also important as well. So sorry, I emphasize that a bit more, but you know, we see it a lot in the industry too. And then unfortunately, as a department head, and I'm sure as you know, as a manager, that you've seen, how many times have you hired people and then 3-4 months later, they're gone?
Well, it happens all the time. And that's how my career has looked too. 6 months here, 7 months here, 8 months here, a year here, boom, 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 boom. And I personally have no regrets, because number one, I feel like, and I'll actually ask you a question on this, but number one, I feel like at the end of the day, once the pandemic hit, nothing else really mattered anyway. Like, anybody who would say, oh, you didn't stick around long enough, well, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. So, you know, whatever. So that's one thing. But more importantly, I feel like for me, I found value in the volume of experience of different teams, different dynamics, different problems, and being able to remedy that. So that's kind of my next question to you would be, what would you say to somebody who might challenge that and say, well, why would I stick around for 2 or 3 years and I'm sure, as you know, right, where let's say you're in an environment where you you really are kind of have your back up against the wall in terms of like, can you actually make any meaningful changes other than just organizing a binder at the front desk, right? So at what point do you tell yourself, you know what, I'm going to stick it out to try and make this better, versus, wow, I could go and take this other opportunity, maybe just get more experience, maybe make a little bit more money, whatever. Like, what's your kind of balancing act on that?
There's so many variables involved into that it really does, you know, depend on that individual at the time of their career and their current position. When, as I mentioned, you know, like, I get it. Like, there's aggressive owners, there's some tough locations, there's some tough brand hotels out there with high expectations or low expectations, maybe, I don't know.
Right.
So I think I've always said, if you're eating a bad plate of food, stop eating it. Like, that's just what it is. Like, that's what you're going to do. So if you're going to do it, cut it loose and stop. You have two choices every single day, right? Either stay, do a great job, be positive, because as you know, the attitude reflects the rest of the department, reflects the rest of the hotel, or even the brand. Or you go, try not to bring the team down. I think is the attitude aspect is going to be I think that's going to be the biggest testament in those moments. Working some tough properties, and you mentioned one that you and I share a commonality with. You have those moments like, oh my God, it's 2:00 in the morning. I'm still getting yelled at by a lot of people and there's a line, there's no one else around me. Oh my gosh. And, you understand it to an extent, but a bad day doesn't make it a bad job and a good day doesn't make it a good job. I think it really does come down in the end to how you're going to approach it. And is there still a learning lesson? Did you learn what to do today or did you learn what not to do? And I think that's going to help alleviate some of that kind of stress and that built up anxiety that might come to that point. And keep in mind too, it's nice being asked to dance, but you don't always have to say yes. So when those opportunities come up, it might look great, but is it worth an extra 50 cents an hour, $1 an hour? I don't know. Or is it worth the extra 20 miles of travel round trip for you now for the commute? Evaluate, life, evaluate how is this going to affect you 2 phases from now in your career. And I think that's what's really going to be a big factor, and that's coming through, like I said, working through the pandemic, working through the housing crisis, swine flu, H1N1, SARS, everything else that I've done in my young career. But, you take it with the stride. And to your point, yeah, working at all these other hotels, and I've worked at a good chunk as well too. Developing that network is essential, right?
Right.
It does help that about who you know as well. That you gain mentors, you gain partners, you gain just a great network that you can rely on some advice or guidance, even just help. I think that there is benefits to it as well, 100%.
Yeah, I think I like how you said a bad day doesn't make it a bad job and a good day doesn't make it a good job. And most importantly, you don't want any of those feelings to reflect negatively on your team in the moment, because that's what you're there to do is because for the team, I think even more so, it really does feel like a bad day is a bad job and a good, you know what I mean? And then as a manager, you kind of have to eliminate yourself from that mindset and rise above for the greater good. Right. So, okay, Zoltan, so you have spent your vast majority of your career in rooms, right? So you've been doing housekeeping leadership,
right.
You've been doing front office leadership, you've been doing director of rooms. Mm-hmm. And, we've landed you here now as this new general manager on a property that you said is very heavily focused on food and beverage. Did anybody ever say to you, you're not ready for this job because you don't have the robust food and beverage experience that somebody may argue that you need in order to successfully manage this place? Did that conversation ever come up?
Luckily, no. And I will say this though too. I'm very fortunate about the structure of this hotel as well. So it's a very unique deal too. So this is more or less kind of 2 separate entities. There's a mix of Nobu Restaurant Group and Nobu Hospitality Group. See, so I'm more or less on the hospitality side, right? I have represent the hotel, the rooms, all that, operations and all that. The Nobu Restaurant Group, still same Nobu umbrella, same Nobu name, very close with everybody at the top. They really do focus everything F&B. So as much as I meet with the general manager of restaurants, executive chef on a weekly basis, daily basis, a lot of these items and menus and planning and org charts and all that stuff, really, it's all on them. If anything, it's helping me gain more knowledge, going to my point earlier about gaining this knowledge of what happens behind the scenes and how how maybe the hotel side can help the restaurant or vice versa. So my years of rooms experience and knowing what it's like working the front desk and being yelled at about some restaurant reservation or something, how something was cooked or everything. I know what the guest wants, at least from a hotel perspective. Now I can bring it to the restaurant group, which is, as you know, too, like this Nobu the hotel brand is still fairly new and developing. So we're correlating. So we're sharing these experiences. So it's been actually fun from my role as a first time GM, collaborating really with the restaurant side and the F&B side, culinary side of what really goes on. I mean, I'll ask the executive chef, I'm like, okay, those shishito peppers are awesome. How do I make them? Show me right now. And then, but they're super fun to work with, and the passion that goes into it, you understand then, wow, that's why they're successful behind it. And then I gain some more knowledge that I can share to then the hotel side of people, executive committee meetings, the front office staff, whatever. It really is kind of a good, fun balance for me to learn as well as adapt.
So that is probably, at least it sounds to me like one of the most ideal situations that you could have ended up in as a first-time GM in a robust food and beverage heavy property.
Very fortunate.
It's not all on your shoulders,
right?
But you get the exposure, you get the experience. And I think more importantly, you get to see what a successful food and beverage program looks like in practice, in theory, and in application. Because as we know, sometimes, especially, working at maybe not so much the luxury hotels, but just working at your kind of 3-star branded hotels, the food and beverage experience can be kind of secondary to the room side. And I think that not only does that leave a bad taste in the guest's mouth, so I'm sure that's also another shock factor that you guys have when people come in unfamiliar with Nobu, but also for you or for anybody really to be able to say like, oh, wow, so we really could have been doing this, and this is what it looks like when we do food and beverage right, and kind of take that from just this is an amenity of the hotel to this is a complement to the hotel almost.
100%. Goes back to the exclusivity aspect of the guest experience too, because I mean, I have a hard time getting a reservation in for the restaurant because how many people want to go? I mean, and it's a good problem to have, and it is definitely something that the city of Chicago really hasn't seen in a very long time. As you know, most of the hotels here in the city, even around the Chicago suburbs, a little bit older. They've been up for a while and everything. Not too many of these brand new builds. Slowly but surely, yeah. I mean, it's developing in neighborhoods and areas. But from a luxury perspective, now you're dipping into these different kind of markets and segment groups that kind of can be attractive to a lot of people. And to collaborate that now with such a stellar, well-known food and beverage quality and food and beverage group like Nobu, to bring it to the city of Chicago. And this is a very big deal for Nobu, not just hotels, but for the restaurants too. First Nobu in the Midwest. This is the first Nobu hotel built from the ground up in the country. So this is ideally something that can really stem up here. And you mix that up with classic Chicago Midwest hospitality. It's really fun to see, and how this is now kind of slowly blossoming now, even through this crazy pandemic.
We're interrupting this video to bring you a brief message from HospitalityMD. So if you're like many of the people I've been speaking with, chances are your hotel is understaffed. This hiring crisis is affecting everyone from roadside motels all the way up to big box and city center products. Now, if putting out applications isn't working for you, if people aren't willing to train, if they show up for work and leave a week later, you're not alone, but we can help. The same hospitality we provide during our content, we can provide to your hotel in the form of hotel task force consultants. They are brand trained, confident, and ready to hit the ground running at your hotel. And we work with all budgets and all types of properties. We can help you. Contact us today to learn more with the link in the description.
So I will also pose the question on the other side to you, because and again, I really think that your insights are going to provide a lot of value to our young listeners. Even just for me, I'm like, let me just get to pick your brain right now for my own personal
Please go ahead.
but on the housekeeping side too, because you took that leap initially as well. And I know that is very, very scary for front office people to take that leap, to jump into housekeeping operations, because you go from being the one to call them and say, hey, can you do this, to being the one who actually has to then go and execute on that. And it's very, very different. Again, both departments have their ups and downs. They're both difficult in their own way, but housekeeping is,
love it.
Let's just take it away, Zoltan. Tell me about housekeeping. Tell me about why you did that. Were you scared? How did you feel? All of that stuff that goes into it, because again, our young people who are working the front desk right now, I think they're asking themselves, if I want to get to where Zoltan's at, if I want to be a GM, I know that at some point I need to do housekeeping.
So I'll never forget the day I made the decision to do the jump to go to housekeeping. And I was a housekeeping director and laundry. It was housekeeping and laundry director.
And where was this? Just so we're aware.
This was at La Quinta Resort and Club, the Waldorf Astoria Resort out in La Quinta, California, just outside of Palm Springs, Coachella Valley.
And how many rooms?
Oh, at the time it flexes because there's an ownership program. It's almost 800 rooms.
Okay, so we're talking about housekeeping operations on the highest level possible.
Oh, it's 41 pools, 56 hot tubs, 9 golf courses, and a spa on top of those 800 rooms. So I can tell you about pool towels alone. It was insane. So talk about diving into the deep end, right?
Big box and luxury and resort.
Right. And there's not one service elevator.
Combined.
It was all spread out over 43 acres. So everything housekeeping wise is on foot, or you take like a golf cart. It was absolutely insane. So in your middle of the desert in 115 degree weather in the summer. So I'll never forget the day. I never forget the day I did it. And I called my mom and I said, Mom, I just let you know, I'm going to housekeeping now and taking on, I'm going to be a housekeeping director and all that. And she started crying. She's like, oh my God, you're not going to meet the celebrities or VIPs anymore. You're going to housekeeping, cleaning rooms. I said, no, this is good news. So for the listeners, for the viewers, listen, it was one of the best experiences in my life. It was extremely humbling. And this is coming off of some world-class hotels I've been and currently still work for. It teaches you about how to handle a staff that's 3 times the size of what your front office team was probably. It teaches you about purchasing and organizing and inventories. Oh my gosh. I mean, that alone, you go now walk into a hotel room and just see cents and dollars and cents everywhere. You look at a coffee setup, right? You walk into a hotel room with a Keurig setup, right? K-cup, 44 cents. You just know, times that by 4, and then you're doing the math, and then you times that by your number of rooms, and that's 1 par stock, and then you need 3 par stock minimum. So you're going down and you're just doing like, oh my gosh, I'm in the matrix. And so like, that's the stuff
that's interesting.
It happens. But things that like when you're a front office person and you're on those Friday, Saturdays, you're calling and say, the rooms have been pending for a while now. And I know, but now you're looking back into, well, why are they pending? And so this really taught me so much on that front. And then from a laundry perspective, best workout of my life. It was, talking about shedding pounds and organizing a laundry room and knowing that a single iron machine is about $250,000 and that goes down. You're doing a lot of things by hand, and it's very, like I said, so humbling. And then you're working out how to organize it, right? Because at that resort, not only did we have 41 pools, 56 hot tubs, spa, 800 rooms, you had about 6 restaurants on property that needed napkins done, table linen done. And we had one single laundry room that was built back in 1988, and
plus banquet linen, I'm sure as well. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, it's all on you at that point.
Everything. So you're organizing now your day of okay, towel machines for guest rooms, towels for pools, napkins for the fine dining restaurant. The restaurant opens at this time. Wow, you're piecing everything together. And it really does start with laundry and linen, because you can't clean rooms without it. So
Right.
then you get that going, you disperse it out. Then you start going around the resort. You start, inspecting rooms, checking on the team. How are they doing? Is anyone, God forbid, hurt? Things like that. And then you also know tracking VIPs, all this other stuff. So I think and then the back end, the admin stuff, which is orders and how to organize, carts or efficiencies, because everything's looked at by time. What's your average amount of minutes per room type, and it's such a mathematical and strategical department that knowledge helped me now going back into a director of rooms position, or obviously hotel manager, general manager, really kind of speak the language to the other departments, understand what they're going through too, even from a luxury perspective too, because there's a if you go to some of these luxury hotels, any type of brand, you don't really see those big, bulky push housekeeping carts, do you? A lot of them are these little travel packs, like little suitcases.
They're dainty, yeah.
Yeah, right. And so you have to clean an entire room with this little pack versus what maybe a Hilton, Marriott, Hyatt would have in the larger carts that have everything right there. It's kind of a one-stop shop almost, to at least get you through half the shift, and so like it's all strategy. How are these closets organized? How is a team? What can we do to help them out with all that? So yeah, it was 100%. I loved it. I loved all the team members. It was very, wow. I love looking back on those days. It was, trust me, exhausting on it. 100%. It was probably the most physically demanding position I ever held, but it was definitely one of the most rewarding.
And it needed to happen right now.
100%. Yeah. You need to dip your, you can't be a one-stop shop in this hotel industry. Has so many awesome people, awesome departments. And the more you dip your experience into, especially within the full-on rooms division, because that's going to be your bread and butter, right? I tell people all the time, the hardest working department in any hotel is housekeeping. You might not like that answer or not. That's my personal belief. It is by far housekeeping, the hardest working department. The craziest department is front office. They're dealing with text messages, phone calls, check-ins, luggage assistance. Now, all of a sudden you see a cop pull up because you don't know what's going on. Like you're seeing all this stuff going on at the same time. So front office teaches you how to handle a lot with very little, and housekeeping helps you. It teaches you how to organize with what you have. It teaches you how to strategize and facilitate and kind of get everything to a well-oiled machine. So it really does a great balance to then, if you really aspire to be GM or director of rooms or something like that, you can speak the language. You can anticipate how that decision, that department is going to affect that department in that way. And it fully was an experience. And that wasn't just like a 6-month gig. I put some time into that because I wanted to learn as much as I could on that front as well. It was really fun.
So you said you were director of housekeeping, right? So
I was kind of, it was interesting. It was because how large the resort was, there were some transitions. It was a lot of transitions. That director of housekeeping left. So I helped out as an interim director. I did very humbly admit that I didn't want to be the director of housekeeping and laundry for my first time position at an 800-room resort with all these amenities. So
well, that's actually why I bring it up, right? Because I'm thinking like, is it, because I guess this is really what my question is, and for a lot of people listening, I'm sure they're wondering, is that even, I guess you've proven that it's possible, but is it kosher to be, and maybe this is an extreme example, right? Because of the size, scope, and nature of the particular property you had this experience at. But let's say Hilton property, service elevator, laundry room in the basement, everything is kind of standard box, right? And somebody is going from department head in front office, and now they have an opportunity in a in a hotel to be the director of housekeeping. Do you think that those skills are transferable enough that you can do it effectively and just learn it? Or do you feel that you need to start out as an assistant or a supervisor and kind of work your way up, just like you would do in a front office setting? What's the transferability like, in your opinion?
My recommendation is this. Well, can we go back to what happened with me was a very kind of right place, right time, peculiar kind of circumstance. I think what helped me was that I was already a director for an office at the same resort at that time for a while, for almost a year and a half, I think. Coming off of another year of director experience already. So at the time, I was almost 2.5 years of director for an office from the resort world, combining another Wolf story prior to that. And so I think the resort saw my work ethic. I think I proved to many of the executives, the team members, of what I could do with what I had, and how, I could be a reliable source, a dependable source, that I am focused on my career as well as the success of the team, the guest experience, as well as the hotel operation. So I think that helped me a lot. Now, if this was an opportunity, going back to your point, outside of the premises, it would be probably very, very, very hard without getting that experience, without at least that hotel or resort knowing have you proven to yourself after over a year of being there, of consistency, dependability, adaptability, reliability, all that fun stuff, professionalism. I think that's going to be the biggest key and differentiator. So it depends on that kind of moment of what you're going for. So if you're already an internal candidate, you've been there, you've proven yourself, you feel confident in what you've been doing, what you've accomplished, your professionalism, all that, and you see an internal opportunity, sure, go for it. Why not? I mean, what's the worst going to happen? You still have a job, at a place that obviously you like, because if you're willing to stay there to go to another department, you just keep learning. But the interview experience helps a lot too. Maybe you showing the GM or the director of housekeeping showcases that you want to learn or adapt or invest more into that property, and hopefully they'll invest back into you. Maybe consider you for another role, maybe one step down, maybe a housekeeping manager or a laundry manager role or something like that. There's no shame in that. So hopefully, that's what I tell people right now. Anyone that's currently in a supervisory or entry-level manager position is a land of opportunity right now. Like, don't be so focused to be the fastest to the director position, because then you start plateauing. And then you start getting hooked on that title. It's like get hooked on maybe the salary or hours or whatever it is. And then you start realizing you're not really having much room to work with. Because you got to think too, the higher up these positions go, the less there are, right? It's
sure.
So
makes sense.
Right. There's one director for an office position per hotel, but there's probably 7 to 10 GSAs, So the higher up you're going to go, there's less opportunity. So don't be so fast to go to that. Take advantage of the hourly while you can. But if you're in this position of, you've been a supervisor for a couple of years, or entry-level position, entry-level manager for a couple of years, and you have opportunity to be assistant front office manager, or assistant housekeeping manager, or assistant director on each side, play with it for sure. It's just a great investment. And yeah, I mean, with those positions, you're probably going to get in the nitty gritty. You're going to be in the laundry room folding. You're going to be in the rooms making beds or stripping rooms or cleaning toilets or whatever it needs to do. But that's that experience that you gain out of those opportunities. And then when you see a director position, whether it's front office or housekeeping, you can go back and forth either way. So you increase your value by putting that time into doing that and making that leap of faith. Yes, you're not going to be escorting the VIPs, but you might be cleaning their rooms. I mean, I was fortunate to meet a lot of them that way too, as well, in the housekeeping, perspective as well. It was nice. So.
Yeah. I definitely think that is probably one of the most anxiety inducing things that hoteliers will go from, is either that rooms to F&B, or even within rooms, front office to housekeeping. You don't really, not always. I think it's less typical to see a housekeeping to front office transfer, just based on the nature of the department. but it's again, it's one of those things that I also feel is critical. One of the things that I've learned more recently is that life is really long, and that like you can actually just take your time more and just learn things and just
100%.
take your time, because like and I want to hear you say this, if you agree, coming from the mouth of a young general manager. Like, if you had achieved GM by 40 or 50 at your current hotel, that would be pretty damn cool, right? Like, that would still be really awesome. It just happened to be just how things worked out and the stars aligned for you particularly. But we interviewed Juan Leyva from London House, and one of the things that he said, that he's like, because he's so young, he was 30 when he was GM of London House, was, don't compare your career to mine just because you see me as this young GM, because all of his young staff members looking up to him were like, yeah, I want to be a GM by 30 now too. I want to get there. Where's the next move, director? Boom, 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 boom.
Totally.
So just, I don't know. Can you tell people to slow down a little bit? Like, what do you think?
I will. Juan's 100% right. I love Juan. He's a great guy. And to his point, I'm sure he'd agree with me on this too. We don't want anyone to be the next Juan or the next Zoltan or anything like that. Be the first you. Like, be a new standard. Be a standard that is set. Be an example, a good example, not a bad one, because those ones float around the city too. We've seen them. But the key thing is, going back to what I said earlier, quality is not an expense, it's an investment. Invest into yourself, and your knowledge is not going to be given to you. It's that push-pull method, right? Me as a GM, or even a department head, if I was director of housekeeping, director of front office, whatever, I want to see my team come to me asking me, hey, I just did this, what else you got for me? I should be pushing stuff onto you, not pulling information from you.
Right.
I don't want to pull. I shouldn't have, the department head, should not have to go to you. Hey, is this done? Did you follow up with that guest? Where's the pass on? Where's the follow up? Where is it? I shouldn't have to do that. If you're ahead of the game, and it goes back to what I said earlier, are you leaving the position better than how you got it? That's the main separator. That's probably the 5% of the really true successful people that move up the right way, is going to your boss and say, boss, I'm done. What else you got? What can I do for you? I learned this. Or, hey, how can I do this? Or, can you show me how to do that again? Or, can we set up a meeting or something like that? I want people who want to know, not need to know. I want people who want a job, not need a job. I want people who want to get paid, not need to get paid. And I think it's so important to, if you start establishing that kind of mindset that, you got to keep positive. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. But if you embrace it and learn from them and move forward, think about it this way. There's not one single company in the entire existence of the world that has 100% customer satisfaction. Not Apple, not Tesla, not Google, nobody, right? Nobody. Sure, they might be at 95, 96, 97%, but there's still 3% of people that just don't prefer it. So you're not going to be 100% all the time. Accept it, move forward. Okay, learn from that. No one's going to be perfect. And I'm still learning a lot. I collaborate with my other counterparts around the country or world all the time. And I'll ask questions that maybe I should know, but I don't. It's okay to admit to it. I think the fact that I'm continuing my network, communicating, establishing a good relationship and networking with them too, and getting to know them on a personal level too, it always helps, because you're just expanding your career, right? Wisdom comes at the wrong end of life, unfortunately, and it's very true. If knowing what I know now, would I change my path? No, but would I do things slightly differently? 100%. For less headaches and stuff I put myself through. But I still would have gone probably the same routes and career moves for sure.
But to your point, everybody's career is different, and you can't change what you've already done. Mm-hmm. So, and life is long, so let's just keep living it and keep 100%. Growing and keep learning. So, number one, love the little sayings and like isms that you've sprinkled throughout this episode. You've got a lot of them.
I do. You ask a lot of the people that worked with me, they probably know the Zoltanisms. Yeah.
We'll have to edit a compilation of all those when this is done and put those together. So that's that. And finally, I'm going to ask you one last question before we wrap up the interview. And that is, how do you know when you're ready to be a general manager?
That's a good question. You know what? I don't think you do. No, I think you just have to feel it. I think there's gonna be moments in time where things happen, right? I mean, even how me getting this position transpired, it was very fast, a bit sudden transition, pandemic, changes of org charts and all this other stuff. But in the end, sometimes you'd have to accept that you can't always do, you know, the right, is it right or is it wrong and all that. It's just, are you just doing the right thing? Am I helping the team out? Is this the right thing to do? Am I helping out what's beneficial for the guest or for the team or for the owners? Are we being fiscally responsible? Are we being fair and appreciative to the team members who are working very hard right now? Are we treating the guests how they deserve and what they deserve for the rate that we're charging them? So bringing this all together and kind of laying out a game plan and then putting a lot of trust to the team. It really isn't just the GM. It really is a collaborative team effort. I know it's very cliche and, for a GM to say, but my gosh, I mean, especially now more than ever, we should be appreciating our teams as much as we can, and so there's times still to this day, I'll come in out with a polo on, stripping rooms, because I missed my workout that day. Probably I needed to get back in my pants. But you see it in their eyes, like, wow, even the GM hotel manager is helping. And that helps me inspire too, because years ago I was in those shoes. It's good to kind of constantly go back. I think what helps too is the urge and ambition to want to learn more. If I buy a new product, let's say I switch over housekeeping chemicals, I want to be in that meeting. I want to test them myself. I want to have a confident conversation with the room attendant or house person or public area attendant of how to do something and why we're doing it. Because they're the ones in the end doing it. I want them to be part of the decision as well, right? So like if you reorganize a housekeeping cart, put an empty cart in front of the housekeeping team and say, what do you guys want to do? They're the ones doing the work. It's not my idea. I have an idea, but I'm not the one doing it every day. So if you incorporate your team and work with them, it's amazing how much free knowledge you learn from them. Like, wait, we've been doing that the whole entire time. How come no one's ever said anything? And they look at you like your director, like, really, but I think you gain that trust and respect, as I mentioned earlier. I think that's what helps inspire me to get ready for these types of roles, so that you just don't want to let them down, or anybody else down, or the guests or anybody. So it's the hospitality side, it's people helping people.
Yeah. I got chills just now when you had mentioned the free knowledge you get from actually talking and working with your team. I don't know if you know who Charles Dozier is. He used to be the Hilton Worldwide brand ambassador. We interviewed him a couple of years ago, and one of the things that we talked about was when you're a young manager, you're with the MDP, you're doing something like that, and you're going into these, and it from your time with Hilton, you're going into a large box, unionized environment, long tenured staff, and you literally have damn near zero experience, and you're going and leading these people.
Right.
What should that look like? And one of the things that he said was, respect the institutional knowledge that they have, because they've been through, in a lot of cases, let's just take a entry-level banquet captain or banquet manager who's coming through MDP, and you have these banquet servers and bartenders that have been doing it. They know more about banquets at that hotel than you'll ever know in the 6, 7, 8, 12 months that you're there. And they've already seen 10 or 12 managers come through and try and change the world in the time that they've been in that hotel. So just respecting the institutional knowledge that comes with the grit of staying in one position for a long time, I think is critical. And that's one of the reasons why I have the utmost respect for our global hospitality community of associates and the institutional knowledge that exists within a lot of these hotels. And I think you very similarly echoed that with the sentiments you were making.
100%. Well done is better than well said. Like just tell, show me, right? And when you do those roles, I'll never forget that first week of housekeeping, when I made that transition to leap of faith, if you have an opportunity, go all in. I dressed up as housekeeper. I got a housekeeping uniform.
Right.
I wore it, and I was in a director position. I wore it. I had everything, and I walked in that room. Everyone's faces dropped. And this is out in you're an hour away from Mexico, so English was a second language, And so the culture and everything. They're seeing this guy who they've been seeing this in a suit for a year and a half, as running a director for an office, now dressed up as a housekeeper, and you're just doing it because I want to know what it feels like. How many rooms does it take for me to sweat? Or how,
Right.
how hot is it? How uncomfortable is it? What are you going through when you're stripping these rooms or making the beds or cleaning the toilets and everything? If you do it like this, man, there's that your trust and respect meter keeps going up high. You don't do it every single time. The first couple of times I'm okay. I got it. I proved the point. But I think there's a sign of appreciation that you're willing to do it, knowing the fact that you didn't have to, but you wanted to. And I think getting to know them on that level, asking, well, what do you think? What do you want to do? You have to you're a sponge. You're a sponge the first few months of just
Right.
absorbing all of their knowledge. What do they know? And then is it just an opinion? Is it a bias? Or is it a consistency? And then you start prioritizing from there of, okay, let's start focusing on these areas now. This is by far happening the most. Let's start hitting it hard. And that's what you do.
Well, Zoltan, I have to say, I think the isms that you've been able to provide, the knowledge and practical advice will be certainly invaluable to our Hospitality MD community of listeners throughout the world, actually, and for myself included. I've taken a lot away, and I'm just so glad to know you. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for your contributions to hospitality and for sticking with it as a lifestyle.
Thanks, Kyle. We appreciate your time. You guys are doing a great job with us. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey guys, thank you all so much for sticking around to the end of this video. If you haven't done so by now, be sure to subscribe to this channel and give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed today's video. Now, in the comments, what I'm curious to know is what your biggest takeaway from Zoltan was. I learned so much from interviewing him, and I'm hoping you guys learned just as much from tuning in, so definitely let us know in the comment section. Again, in the description box, you'll find Zoltan's LinkedIn profile so you can stay up to date with what he is doing at the Nobu. And you'll also find the link to our website where you can learn more about our services such as Hotel Task Force, Hospitality Consulting, and Hotel Management Services. We love you guys. Thank you for everything. See you again soon.